Hello, SPG players, and welcome to another episode of an unexpected podcast. And today I've got the entire crew with us, and we're all here at Ardacon. We're going to be talking about
the
entire crew.
We're here in the
whole crew.
Rob plus Alisher.
Minus
yeah, this whole crew.
This is Rob.
This is the Rob replacement. We're not cutting any of this out.
Who's Rob anyway?
Exactly.
He's Rob.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
New Rob.
Nice to meet you, Rob.
You know how like in television series, like between seasons, sometimes like one of the characters will come back being played by a different actor. That's what's happening now.
This is Rob played by Alice.
Oh, so actually that's Batman.
Yeah, right.
So Rob's Michael Keaton, and this is Christian Bale.
So the entire crew and our Robert Cron replacement will be talking about Ardacon, and that's where we're at right now filming. We're all together and going over some doubles. We're going to be talking about the doubles that we've done, some of the Masters qualifiers. For those who don't know, it's our second attempt or last attempt to get into the Masters, which is essentially a tournament where it's only the most expert players in the world play. We're going to be talking about how Evan did in that. And then we're going to be talking about how Rainier snuck in.
On a technicality, I opened the door and I was like, is this Narnia? And it was just psychopaths that beat the crap out of me.
Exactly. Well, while these two dealt with that, the rest of us did the doubles, and we're then going to be pretty much rounding up with that. So, without further ado, before we get into the Masters and tell you about that, how was your two double games? We had Matt and Alisher. So Alisher, our Rob replacement, played doubles together, and I played with a random.
Well, first we got to discuss how Evan got into the
Actually, yeah, let's talk about how these two got in. Just how they got into the match.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to discuss that.
So Evan failed to win Nova, which would have given him the Masters title.
Well, thanks, Devin.
So he had to come back into his last chance qualifier. So tell us about your last chance to get in.
Yeah, so well, he was playing in it too. Dad was.
I was.
Yeah, so last year I got in from the last chance qualifiers.
So did I.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
That was very fun. And then
I got smart.
this year it was way bigger. Oh, yeah. This year it was way bigger. Last year we had like 20 people. This year it was like 60 or something like that. So it
Just a
was
standard Wednesday.
four rounds. And no real tiebreakers other than VP difference. So you really had to win your games and win them with a lot of VPs. But originally when we went into the tournament, we thought it was going to be one Masters slot just for the first place. And then they announced at the beginning of the tournament that it was actually two. And then on the fourth...
Full of nerds.
By the way, this is a spoiler alert.
Indeed. And then in the fourth game, they announced there was going to be a third Masters player. So in total, top three get Masters, which was exactly the same as what happened last year.
What place did you get?
So I came in second. I got 4 wins. The guy ahead of me, Sean Lang, got 4 wins. I don't know if you, Dad, want to go over that game real quick.
So yeah. So unfortunately, I wasn't aware that there are going to be 3 slots for the Masters. So I was like, well, I got to get to the top table and win, right? Because there's going to be like 1 slot. So I got to top table in the last game and played Sean Lang and didn't win, which I would have been kind of more depressed about had it not been such a fantastically fun game with Sean, who was a great player, a great guy to play with, and a great guy to lose to. And Evan had the superior strategy, which was to sneak in the back door and play on table 3, win up, and take the second prize. Which
Yeah, of
was
course. I had the
superior
great strategy of having 4 incredibly close, nerve-wracking games, which got me in second place, and it was all planned perfectly. So
How many
yes.
rounds were in the Masters?
4.
There was 4.
Not
4 total.
Masters. Not
Sorry, the qualifiers.
Qualifiers at 4
There were
rounds.
4.
Yeah.
So there were 4. So yeah. So Evan got in, and Rhea, how did you get it?
On a technicality. So I got an invite years ago before I moved.
What was it, 4 years ago?
I think it was 4 years.
Yeah, it was like 4
3 or
years
4
ago.
years
So
ago.
Rainier was invited to Masters.
I
4 years
was, but then I moved to South Korea and haven't really played the game in 3 years. And yeah, I questioned my own sanity, guys. So yeah, that's how I got in there. We'll talk more.
So to
about
clarify, well, did you want to clarify on how the invitation occurred? Or?
Right.
Basically, he didn't fail to win Nova, unlike other Masters qualifiers.
I did win Nova, yeah.
Yeah, he actually won.
Yeah.
Yeah, no big deal.
No big deal.
Just wasn't this Nova.
Wasn't this
No.
Nova?
It was a Nova.
It was like a Nova years ago.
It was like a
Yes.
supernova.
In a land before time. In a land before COVID.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, that's why James opened it up to 3 players, because he realized that a person who should have went to Masters years ago had not.
Yeah.
He let
Because
Rainier in.
the Nova representative for this year could
Yeah.
not make it, and
Exactly.
last year could not make it, and the year before could not make it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So I was
traveling from America.
Oh yeah. I was like, I'll do it.
And so there you go. So
All right, so next on the agenda, I guess, is the World Doubles Team Championship, which, once again, if those of you may remember from last year, I got left at the altar once by my son, who went up to Masters and abandoned me to play with Henry. This year, he abandoned me again, and I was able to find another adopted son, Alisher, who's
Rob. Yeah.
Rob.
oh, I'm sorry, yes, new Rob, who's here with us today. And we were able to go through the doubles together. Do we want to talk through this? Well, we'll talk through those games briefly, and then once I get rid of all the error messages. Yeah, all right. So I want to make sure I get people's names right. So the first round we played was against a pair of Dutch players. This was Dirk Helms and Akeem Vieira. We're playing Bears, and Akeem was actually somebody that I played against in the last chance qualifier, where we had an Emperor off, and he was I had taken his Emperor down in that fight, and he was after me for revenge, and this time brought Bears, and unfortunately for Akeem, this was he and Dirk's first time playing the Bears, and they had forgotten that Bjorn has to charge, and kind of led with Bjorn, and ended up in a situation where there was bear baiting that went on, and Bjorn got pulled out all by his lonesome 8 inches in front of the rest of the Bjornings, surrounded by the Easterlings, because we had moved second, and managed to, even though we had 2 striking heroes, we had both the Emperor and Rutabi in there striking, managed to outstrike us, get up to 10 to our 9, but then proceeded to roll a 1-1-2-2 on his rolls with Bjorn, meaning the best he could get was a 5. And considering, I think like 2/3 of our army was in contact with him at that point, and rolling dice in that fight, meant that we rolled a 6 and dispatched Bjorn. And they put up a hard fought match after that, but losing Bjorn was kind of
It was all down.
the turning point from there. So if you're listening, team, sorry about that again. But as you pointed out, that's a lesson you'll never unlearn. So about Bjorn having to charge. I think let's see if I can find round 2 here. I'm using my handy dandy tourney round summary. Round 2 was the take and hold scenario against Neil Cook from the UK and Ben Haslam from the UK. Boy, I'm sitting here at the end of the tournament, and this is a bit of a blur, but what
Sure,
Ben
do you
were
remember
running.
anything?
Balrog and a dragon.
Balrog and a dragon. How can I forget the Balrog
A
and a
dragon
dragon?
with fly and magic specifically.
Yeah, that's right. Balrog and dragon. And this is one where we had to get to it was basically kind of the doubles version of whole ground. And they came to the center. They were doing lots of casualties, and then we managed to, I think, get priority, win a roll off, surround the dragon, kill the dragon, and then
The Emperor
Horus
was
thing.
on a tear throughout the duration of looking back.
Yeah,
the Emperor was
that's
on
right,
a tear
yeah.
throughout the duration of the doubles.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for a Blade Wrath Emperor, Blade Wrath Emperor against a trapped opponent. So we were able to, in sequence, kind of take both of those heroes down. Let's see, round 3. We have for round 3. Tom and John. That sounds right.
They were playing.
Yeah, help me out.
They were playing Imrahil and Boromir, and then
Right.
a few knights, but primarily the majority of Imrahil's warband was the guys with the pikes. I don't recall what their name is, and then a bunch of Fountain Guard. The scenario, I don't even know.
So the scenario, this is the double scenario with objectives, where you have a center objective and then 4 objectives, you know, kind of one off towards each corner.
Yeah.
And you have the primary force, who in our case was the Emperor, and in their case was Imrahil and friends, basically square off across the center objective, and then the secondary armies come in through Maelstrom of Battle. The Emperor and Imrahil kind of went at it for a while, and their warbands were grinding each other down. Boromir and his friends came in from the side and went to grab one of the side objectives, and kind of fought Rutabi and her warband along the way as Rutabi tried to keep Boromir from getting to the center to help out. And I think that one turned when basically Imrahil was kind of like running over, you know, in the midst of running over people. The Emperor had been pinned down by one of the pikemen, and Boromir had managed to get within range with a tremor, kill the pikeman that was in contact with the Emperor. The Emperor came in behind Imrahil, trapped him, and killed him. And then I think at the end, Boromir managed to come in and get a contested center objective, and they got one of the flank objectives, but we got the other 3. And I think that was the.
I think we broke them then without being broken, and obviously we killed their general.
Yeah, but that was a fun game, and kind of went down to the end until that last turn when we were able to get the Emperor into Imrahil. Round 4 was against Ringwraiths, and this was Tommaso, and who was Tommaso's? I'll find it on there.
Actually, for the listeners, who is Tommaso? He's like one of the top rated Italian players in the world. Right?
He's he won the ETC this year. No,
Yeah.
actually no. He's well, he was
Italy 1
he was-
or Italy 2 or Italy 3?
he was on the Italian team that were second actually.
Yeah.
No, Eric Rigoli is.
Yeah.
Was that Italy
Okay,
1?
so this is not Tommaso.
Oh no, this is one.
No, Tommaso was the other one.
Tommaso is in
Tommaso Zerbi and Eric Rigoli.
It's a big deal
Oh, yeah,
because
so-
actually these are very top tier players
That is
in the
yeah.
Italian
Yeah.
leagues.
And so
Oh yeah.
Playing the Black Riders.
playing the Black Riders.
Yeah,
Tommaso-
playing 9 race.
Tommaso was on the podcast before.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize it.
I
I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't realize I was playing Tommaso at the time.
mean, we have been doing this for about 3 years.
Yeah, I know.
So-
Well, good thing
Yeah.
you guys didn't have to play them twice.
Yeah,
So
well,
how
yeah.
good they are.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
Do you want to go over both games and at the same time?
yeah. So in the first game we played against Tommaso, geez, what was the scenario? Oh, this was a no escape scenario where basically you line up your warband and your opponent's warband face off in the center of the primary warband. So the Emperor and friends, and then lined up against 4 Ringwraiths. Then the secondary forces kind of march on behind the primary forces. Tommaso and Eric had kind of put their primary warband away from the Emperor, and came out and basically commenced Black Dart bombardment on the Emperor, trying to kill him. The Emperor headed toward the other side of the board, managed to survive the Black Dart bombardment, and basically we sent, because this was a scenario where you got points for killing the leaders.
And
Yeah.
you got points for the banner.
You get points for the banner, and the only way we were really thinking we were going to win this is to keep the banner alive. So we sent our leaders away and left the rest of the army to fight on its own. and managed to get the Emperor away and keep him safe, and keep the banner points. But on the last turn, they did kill enough models to break us. Just fighting the guys on their own. And then, all right, so I have a commentary here on the race list that I'll give when we get to the last round. But round 5, we played Luca and Brian. Luca from Italy and Brian from Spain. I think they're both actually from the Canary Islands, which seems like a really fun place to live. And they had Dane and Thranduil and a bunch of elves and Iron Hills dwarves. This was the cornered scenario where the Emperor starts in the middle with his gang of folks, and he needs to hold out in the middle to hold this central position in time for his other half of his army, which is marching in from the edge to kind of get in and relieve him. And you get points basically for keeping your general alive for the requisite period of time, and then get points for kind of the central position. And the other team gets points for killing the enemy's general and taking the position. And they charged in with Dane and Thranduil up front, and started hacking their way through. We managed to get Borger up there quickly because we had the drum and kind of backing him up, moving him in. Managed to get off a cheeky tremor that killed a bunch of guys, and actually took Thranduil off of his horse.
And wounded him twice.
Yeah. So about as good a tremor as you could possibly expect from that situation. And that kind of cut a hole through the middle of their line. And when we got priority the next turn, because they were trying to preserve might, we sent a bunch of guys through it, wrapped around, and basically trapped a Dane on the wrong side of our front line. And the Emperor went in and said, I know what to do with that trap hero. And then I think the first turn he ended up losing, but didn't take any wounds because he managed to fade him off. The second turn, he and Rutabi went in and tag teamed, and this time he was Blade Raft, and we won that one, and that kind of erased Dane pretty quickly. And then Thranduil continued to try to break through the lines, but didn't really succeed. And then we played our last game again against Damaso and Eric, and again against Rays. And this was in the Duel of Wit scenario, which is basically about killing specific targets, which is not the game you want to play against Rays. So this was an exercise in basically denial strategy and seeing how long we could kind of fence off, basically keep all the Wraiths more than 12 inches away from the Emperor. And we managed to keep up, because it was one where you get banner points too. So until they took somebody down, we were going to win 2-0. Although that was really kind of, I think, our only viable strategy for winning, because we weren't going to necessarily take down our targets, which were random raids. And we managed to pull it off until the very last turn of the game, and with the very last available point of will, they managed to get the killing black dart in on the Emperor. But all right, so now my commentary. So that was the last game. We ended up coming in 4-2, and now my commentary on the Wraiths list. And this is not at all a commentary about Tommaso and Eric, but boy, the Wraiths list is just a miserable. I don't know how you guys feel, but it's just a miserable list to play against. It's like playing against the Wraiths is like taking an accounting class with more math. And
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to play this game.
I don't know what that means.
And it's an exercise in basically, you're not trying to win the game. You're trying to not lose the game for as long as possible.
You're trying to just get them to deplete because they will deplete resources pretty fast. Right. I think they have 3 or 4 good turns in them, and then they don't really have an ability to do much else after that.
Right.
So they have to do it. And to be fair, they played, a Dragon Emperor right before us going into the 6th round. They killed it to turn 2. Right. So the black whatever darts were just really effective.
Yeah. And look, in defense of the list, I mean, they lost that game against the Dragon Emperor, because that was they played the Dragon Emperor against the center objective one, and I guess they just couldn't kind of cut down the numbers enough to win that. So there are some scenarios they don't win. I mean, my complaint against the list is not that it's competitive. My complaint against the list is that it is not a fun experience to play against. I think other people have said this, that it's it's a lot of it is just your opponent telling you what they're going to do to you, and you really have no ability to respond. I mean, to a certain extent that's true. To a certain extent it's not. There is some strategy there. There are some tactics that work, and we were using them. It's just not. It's not the SPG game that we know and enjoy, where you're in having a fight with each other and your heroes are going at it.
It's very stat focused.
Yeah, it's very stat focused.
So,
it's very counting focused.
From the perspective of would you rather play against this or against Assault on Homestead?
In its current
that's
edition?
that's an interesting question.
It's like Assault on Homestead is
I
like
think
the,
I think
the,
you can
it's
definitely draw a similarity between them, because there's like 4 really big evil legendary legions, or there were before the FAQ came out and nerfed Assault on
Apparently, FAQ didn't nerf AOL.
Yeah,
because
we'll talk more
because
about
of
that
We'll talk
later.
more about that.
But there's a big difference, I'd say, between Assault on Lothlorien and the Easterlings, which are the strongest lists available, but you're still playing SBG, and then Assault on Helm's Deep and the Ring Wraiths, where it's almost like you're not playing SBG. One person is playing the entire game, and you're just not. And those.
Well, I mean, to be clear, those experiences are very different. Playing against Assault on Helm's Deep and playing against the Black Riders, neither of them are fun.
Yeah.
But they're not fun for different reasons. I mean, Assault on Helm's Deep is very much is as much fun as playing a World War I guy, where you're the side that's been assigned to like run across no man's land to the other side of the trenches.
Blow the whistle.
Yeah,
there we go.
It's a lot of fun for the people who are waiting in the trenches to shoot at you as you come across, but it's not much fun for the guys that are running across the field, and that's the problem. I mean, I think we were talking with Victor from Sweden about this over dinner, and the point he made is it's a lot like the Vanquishers and the it's a lot like playing against the Black Riders is a lot like playing against the Vanquishers and the Necromancers before they were nerfed, where it's like you show up, you put your models on the table, and then this other army like does things to you, and you don't really you have a very limited ability to influence what they're doing to you, and occasionally if they make a mistake you can exploit it, but most of the other time you're just kind of like sitting there waiting while they strategize and they do things, and you kind of come up with you try and exploit any mistakes that they make, but until they make some, you're just kind of sitting there like. And by the way, I think there's a post somebody
I think you're a bit like this.
Yeah, somebody of me in this last round of the game, just sitting there like this.
You and Alisher were twins, and that Alisher was on one side doing this, you were on the other side doing. Oh yes, Rob. Sorry,
Rob, and to be clear, this was the same. As the person who made the post pointed out, this is the same position that we were in for like the last half hour of the game. And for most of that last half hour, until that last black dart went off on the Emperor, we were actually winning that game, and we were still miserable.
It was both games. We were winning until the end, and it's just miserable. Because again, it's what can they not do so much as what can you do? Because you can do actually nothing. Functionally, there's nothing you can.
I mean, all right, let's not overplay it. We can do it's not like you can't do nothing, but there are things you can do, but your options are very limited. Yeah, because you can't play with your fun heroes because they have to run and hide, or else they'll get killed.
You have to play a very awkward game.
Yeah,
it's like you're playing the game in such a way that arguably it's not designed to be played. You're like really measuring things out to be like, how can I get certain benefits in such a way that I can flee the second I need to, but then also be able to like just hold the front.
Yeah, it sounds like I should start playing this on it.
Yeah, it does. It sounds perfect for you, Nick. All right. Well, enough of our bitch session. What happened, Nick? What happened with you?
Oh, I had a great day actually. So I played one late doubles because I couldn't attend the previous days. My teammate was Tom Moore. He's kind of we called our team Ghosts from the Past because back in 2010, Tom won the GT and I was second. In 2011, I won the GT, he was second. So it was one of those where Tom hadn't played for many years and he's just kind of back to the game. And so it was really fun to play with someone who used to be kind of your nemesis, but now we're actually friends. And yeah, it was really nice to like see how each other how we both played. So
Are you friends or are you frenemies?
I think that's
Are you sure?
well, depends if I'm playing. If I'm playing tomorrow, well, I don't actually.
Chair rest.
Yeah. So Devin broke the
Devin,
chair.
stop breaking the furniture.
Yeah, we're gonna. James is gonna lose his deposit.
Sorry. Just tell him to send the bill to James.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, yeah. So we had three really good cool games. Game one was so our army was Rise of Theoden, basically my singles list plus a captain. So we played three games because Friday is only three games. Game one we played against Paul Kelly and Cameron Bell. They had the Merkut Fell Beasts of Merkut Legion. What's the scenario called where you sort of anyway. It was pretty much regardless of the scenario. Game started with us charging on turn one with all of our royal guards, and luckily for us, we basically won almost every combat and killed with almost everything to the point where we were like, oh, we're actually killing too fast. Like the game is just gonna end, and it's not gonna be very good. Yeah, we won the first one quite quickly without almost losing anything. Then in the second round, we were playing against Adam Chork and Mark Stone. So I actually posted a picture on the GBHL site where I said that there was an almost 80 years of MESBG experience on that table.
God, what nerds.
Yeah. It's like I've been playing for almost 20 years. Same for Tom. Then Adam's been playing for more than 20 years. Yeah, and Mark I think like almost 10 or something like that.
I thought you were going to say that you'd been playing for 2, the other guys were playing for 2, and Adam is a lot older than we thought he was.
Well, maybe he is. No, like, but I still remember meeting Adam like what 15, 20 years ago, and I must have been like I was a teenager, and yeah, we've already known each other since then, and I've known Tom since that time. So it was just one of those like really cool blasts from the past. So they played, and that was the Clash of Champions or Contest of Champions, the doubles game. So we had our Gamling and Theoden with some Rise of Rohan and Royal Guards, and they had Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, leading Ministerial Warriors, Knights, and Imrahil leading Fiefdoms Knights, the Lamb Knights. So yeah, it started quite slowly, but then we basically we started winning. We then started losing. Then we started winning again. Then we started losing again, and it was really close for like most of it, like an hour and a half. And then Imrahil, who ran out of might, got surrounded by Rise of Rohan, then wiped 3 of them off. Then next turn got surrounded by Rise of Rohan, wiped 3 of them off, and then we realized they didn't actually have enough models for our heroes to kill anymore. That's so yeah, like out of like a very very tight, very close game of like 5 wins to 5 kills to us, 6 kills to them, 7 kills to us, and suddenly it's like 12 kills to them. Okay, game over. They only have like 20 models. Yeah, and then third game we played against one sec. Sorry, I can't remember the names exactly. We played.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, yeah. We played against Matthew Lockwood and Peter Evans, who had Lothlorien led by Celeborn and Rivendell led by Elrond. in the scenario where both armies, each army has a player starting in the middle, and then the other player comes from behind the opponent, from the board edge. So it started really well for us because we basically just rammed all cavalry in and surrounded the Caliburn part. We managed to break them first, and then 1 or 2 turns happened where our army just collapsed. And despite thinking, oh, we might actually win this, we end up with a draw. I was a bit like, oh, I just don't know what just happened. It's just kind of a standard situation in SPG. Sometimes you just no matter what happens, you're like, oh, that's what is supposed to happen. The highlight of the game was when Dernhelm charged a banner bearer and lost combat, and had she killed the banner bearer, we won it. So that was annoying. Anyway, that's my day. Yeah, it's been 3 really good games against 3 really nice teams, and yeah, like a very nice, enjoyable.
And actually, an important note for those listeners, you noticed Matt had 6 games and Nick had 3 for the exact same event. Ardacon actually split it up.
Two different events.
Yeah, it's actually technically 2. Yeah, it's like
And by exact same, he means entirely different.
yes,
Yes.
these entirely different same events.
Because actually, there's how many events are there as part of Arcticon? There's the qualifiers, there's the doubles 2 days, there's the doubles 1 day, there's the in Arda, there's the masters, and then there's the main event. So 6.
Yeah, 6 events.
Yeah, over 5 days.
Then there's the hidden 7th event for all who qualify.
Is that just you, Devin?
We don't speak about it. That this chair. All right, so basically, I guess for me, I actually wasn't supposed to play in the doubles. I was going to show up and just troll Alisher and Matt and mock them about having to fight Black Riders.
So Rob and Matt.
Yeah, Rob and Matt. Sorry, fake Rob. I had to troll him and
No, real Rob.
Real Rob.
New Rob.
Rob
New Rob.
replacement.
New Rob. New and improved Rob.
No, it's like Alisher Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More hair.
he Rob's hair.
Yeah.
Fine.
We were like, yeah, get this handsome man. That's the podcast. So basically, I wasn't supposed to play doubles, but during the Masters qualifiers, one of the British players had their guy go to Masters, so he was alone. Kind of a consequence of winning Masters. That's actually how.
And actually, just for people
Both
keeping
of you
score,
guys
it was a consequence of me losing to Sean because that was
Yes.
supposed to be Sean's doubles partner.
Yep. So the guy Matt lost to, which is the whole reason he was in doubles, is now his partner is my partner now. And then Evan abandoned Matt, and so Rob had to jump into this.
And
So-
what about Rainier?
Well, Rainier was like a
Well,
special.
I was gonna play with Alisher actually.
Actually,
And then
yeah.
I abandoned
you were-
Alisher.
Yeah,
yeah. So I was with Alisher. I abandoned Alisher. Evan was with Matt. Evan abandoned Matt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I replaced someone who got abandoned.
Exactly.
Long story short, if you're with the Americans, you're either getting abandoned or help getting out. It's like-
half of the people in this room have serious abandonment issues. Take probably a combined 30 years of therapy to work out, but
Yes.
beyond that.
Exactly. So
I wasn't even here for most of it. I just
Yeah.
got abandoned.
You
by
just
the-
got
abandoned by all of us.
So basically, I ended up in the doubles, and it was I can't actually pull up my screen and such because my name was Sean Lang throughout the entire event, so I actually didn't really know where we were. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
actually, his name for the event was Evan.
Yes.
So-
yeah.
And
Henceforth,
everyone's
through
like,
this
wow, Evan looks
doubles-
different in person. He has a beard now.
So I, as the new Sean Lang, got to play Fields of Caliburn Army. And for those who don't know, it's Errol the Young with King of Man, Knight of the White Tower, and then People. And I finally got to play Sons of Errol because I actually never tried it. And imagine many of you haven't either because, they kind of suck down.
Where's that blinking?
Oh, it is.
That is
Stop
an
blinking.
excellent question.
Oh no, it's a shutter speed.
Oh, we're not cutting that out either. So
We're not in a station either. So.
yeah. I mean, honestly, we did pretty well. Considering the army, I would call the army sort of a mediocre-ish army. It actually is a little bit more competitive than you would think right out the bat. But we decided to go ahead and do Operation YOLO on most of our games. And this is where I'm going to name my pet peeve against Bears, because Matt says that he doesn't like Riders and Alistair doesn't like Riders. They lost against those twice. I lost against Bears twice. Bears were an unfun experience. And like literally we couldn't kill.
But they're so soft and cuddly.
Yeah. Well, they stole their forage.
Yeah,
right. So that's what happened.
I think we
He
spent
literally stole the sport of their
spent half the tournament killing bears or getting killed by them. But no, you know, it was a lot of fun. We ended up fighting armies of the dead. We ended up fighting Eastwing Empire. You know, empires.
There's quite a few of them.
There are a few of them. We ended up fighting. I'm trying to think of the first 2 rounds. I don't know. I'm sure they were great matches though.
Yeah, there were a lot of Bears here. I remember. I mean, we played Bears in our first round, and then we went up and we were in like, you know, we were up at, I think we were on table 2 for our next round.
Yeah.
And like I look to the left of me up at table 1 and there are bears. I look to the right of me over at table 3 and there are bears. And it's like I'm surrounded by bears.
Yeah, there were bears all over the place. I got a lot of experience against bears now. So I mean, no, but to be honest though, unlike the Black Riders, which actually is an unfun experience, bears are fine. In fact, they nerfed them. I think actually the nerfs really helped. I'll say that. The 6-up saves felt far less oppressive than the 5-up ones. And we actually were able to kill one on like basically almost full might because of the fact that we couldn't save all the wounds. So, yeah, we actually totally surrounded it. And then promptly died afterward as the entire army just destroyed us. But other than that, it was good. We 3 wins, 3 losses, and they were great games all around, I would say. So, which, by the way, we're going to get into Evan's spoiler alert. Because Evan, you just got the results for your Masters, right?
Yeah, we both just.
Do you want to go
got the
first and I'll
results.
like end it really
Oh no. Let's go 1 and 1. This is the fun way.
Okay. Analogy wise, so Samwise Gamgee is going to Mordor, and he brings with him his best thing, which is a potato. He's Samwise, I'm the potato. That's how I felt the whole event. So I was coming in like not playing really for the past 3 years, and I was like, this is gonna be fun. I used to be good. And first game played an amazing guy he's French, but he lives in Quebec. So he's not French Canadian, but he is a French Canadian. Really interesting. It was Seize the Prize. He had Royal Guard spam on horse with like 4 of the really good Rohans. We go into it. I get really lucky at first because he grabbed the objective. Then I charged and killed him. Then I won a roll off and I ran away. But then just his army cut through me like butter. And I didn't really hide Dalmir. I should have hit him knowing that I'd have 3 victory points. Hide the leader, get broken, calculate that. So he took out Dalmir, broke me, and I had the prize. So it was a 5-3 loss. Second game, I played this wonderful guy from London called Jay. I forgot his last name. Akara, yeah. It was assassination, so I was like, awesome, finally a list that I can or a scenario I could play because I brought Umbar and Harad, and then it was against Assault on Helm's Deep. And yeah, that was.
Do you feel all Assault on Helm's Deep has sufficient nerfs?
You wouldn't know. You didn't play it originally.
You didn't play the Assault. Oh, you never played
On
the
never
the
played the
original.
Oh wow,
Right
you
here.
haven't played in that long. All right, so
Yeah,
Right-
I'm like, what is this?
Right
He's
here.
like- he's like, are you okay? Do you have amnesia? Yeah.
oh my god, all
Yeah,
right.
like last time when you played against ballistas, there were no ballista.
No one really played it.
No.
Last time
I don't know
when
anything
you played
else.
against ballistas, they were used by dwarves.
Yeah.
It's true. It's
Jeez.
true.
So, like,
Yeah, I've been out for a long
That's
time.
actually a really good perspective to know how long Rainier has been out. of this.
Yeah,
Like
you're
people,
like,
people use them in siege. Right?
So you really didn't actually know what the Legion was.
No, he was super nice. So he told me exactly what it did, and I was like, oh sweet. So well, this is fun. You know, how to draw- okay. And then I was like, it's one of those things where people explain how it's played, but then you learn the hard way.
Like
The
how-
extra rules on how it's played. You're like, oh crap. So
How many bombs did you have?
he had, I think,
Just one? One and 2 ballistas?
2 ballistas.
2 ballistas and 1 bomb?
No, well, for
one
650,
bomb.
one
Yeah,
bomb.
Yeah, one bomb,
yeah,
two
six
ballistas, and I think something like 12 crossbows or 13.
Wasn't he the runner-up last year from Ardacon?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was really good. I should have charged everything, but I just charged and shot, and then he took out some stuff.
You were probably just like, I don't like
Yeah.
they're ballistas. They're there for
No, because
siege-
I was
for
gonna be
siege
like, I was gonna be
games.
like,
They're gonna
okay, he's
miss.
gonna shoot.
Exactly.
He's gonna
We have
shoot.
no walls here.
They're
Yeah.
never gonna hit, they shoot ladders.
And I but it's true because I learned the hard way because I thought, okay, like he's gonna shoot the ballistas. I roll the scatter and I'll just put a random guy, right? So I did it like that. But he's like, no, everyone in front of that guy gets hit too. And I was
That's
like,
in the way.
Wait, so
or has an in the way. So of course he's gonna hit someone in the front, just knock it. So I was like, oh shoot. So he took me out like that, and I think I lost that game.
Because I guess you like have been out so long, like the ballistas or siege you would have played against was the Iron Hills ballista.
yeah,
Where it would have
It's a
worked.
volley fire.
It would have gone straight over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like I'm learning on the fly with a whole bunch of Masters players and realizing, oh my gosh. No, but it was good. I didn't lose too poorly actually in most of these games. So that happened. Third game comes around. I played Pascal from Germany's Lake Town, kind of Tariel, thrown in some guys and blah blah
So
blah.
it's like Army of Lake Town.
Army of Lake Town with
Was it a wizard or
some Workwood, no wizard, but it was Contest of Champions. And I went kind of too like aggressive because before I stopped playing the game, I played Cond and what was it? Cond and Easterlings and camels and stuff. So I was like, I'll be really aggressive with Dalmir. He dies like round 2, and then I just like
Any of the Master of Lake Town as his champion?
no, he had Bard with the 2 kids.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so he dies. I lose again. I think it was 11-1 pretty badly. Come today being like I need to get 1 victory, lose again to Victor to a nice Swedish guy at what was
Well,
it?
it was a victor. Hey,
It was a victor for him, a double victor.
I mean,
it's a victor.
Don't you always lose to the victor?
I do, yeah. But I lost to him on Reconnoiter.
Almost by definition.
True. It was a long day. And then I finally played what was the guy's name?
Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
But like you're
Man,
saying,
you
it was
got
a long
beaten so
game.
bad,
That was
we remember your
game
opponents.
1. Okay.
Well, I played
We're all like
Unmental
correcting his
block.
name.
Yeah.
He's just like a block that
all I saw was black and dices fly.
So for those
Just
of
tell him
you,
to roll and he would roll.
yeah, for those of you who are just listening to this and not on video, you can actually see the little Tweety birds kind of circling around Rainier's head.
It's true, guys.
Yeah.
It's true. I'm exhausted. No, but I played him. We played Capture and Control. Good game. He had the Watcher in the water, which was pretty scary, and the Shadow Lord, Black Numenorian line, goblins with spears, and what's his name?
Durbers.
Yeah. So right away I was like, okay, I'm not gonna commit everything and be stupid like what I did with Pascal. Held my heroes back besides the captain. Watcher comes in first round. Watcher doesn't do anything. I mean, the Watcher, this poor guy rolled so poorly, and I rolled more 6s than I've seen in a satanic ritual. Like it was not good for him. But he rolled, I think he did 14 shots with the Watcher the whole game, hit twice. And then also his magic on the first turn, he tried to compel Soladan. So I know he's gonna compel, I'm gonna resist it. I'm gonna have to spend resources, and he might get it next time. He rolled 2 1s on the compel, and like that's kind of how his rolling was going. And I hit a lot of 6. Battle lines hit. I had Black Numenorians in the right space. Just wouldn't die to his Black Numenorians because he wasn't getting 6s. And my captain killed like 8 guys and was like surrounded twice. A bat came into him and he survived the whole game. It was crazy. But game ended and I think I won that one 6-2. I think 6-2. The last game I played.
So before you start last game, were you at this point in contention for the diamond spoon or the?
I'm calling it the golden spoon right now, but it's probably a golden toilet. So I was in contention for the golden spoon. Super excited. Then we get hold ground against dwarves. It was what was it?
Thorn's company.
Thorn's company. So I was like, I got this in the bag. Apparently I did not. I made another stupid
Thorn's company or
It was
Champions of Era.
Oh,
Champions of Era.
Was it Coleman?
Yeah, he was so nice. That was
yeah.
like the most fun I've had in a long
I
time.
mean, if somebody took Thorn's company to the Masters, my hat would go off to that guy.
Yeah. No, but he came in on
Came with the 9 doors, right? Was it
He had 8,
Yeah,
but he
you
came
won.
in with Evan too because he won.
Yeah.
But super nice. We had a lot of fun. We were talking about it. He was like really nice because I hadn't played in a long time. I was like, look, I'm relearning some stuff. Everything does everything. I have no idea what your army does. He explained it to me. We had a good time, and then again, I didn't play too conservatively with Dalmir, to where he killed him late-ish in the game, but that's 2 victory points. And then I could have tied it on a 1 or 2 because he broke me. Didn't go. Then I could have won it on a 1 or 2. Didn't happen. Then I could have won it on a 1 or 2 again. Didn't happen. And he just piecemealed me. But it was a minor loss. I think it was 5-3 also.
So what was the total score?
The total score, I got 1 win. Oh, the total score of that game? Or
No. Yeah, so the whole thing. 1 win. 5
1
losses.
win, 5 losses, and I checked right now. I did not get the golden spoon.
Oh.
Yeah, I was really rooting to get last place, but I got second to last. So
Oh,
even with being a loser, I'm the
Wow.
bridesmaid.
I can't even do that.
I can't even
Damn
do
it.
that. Get out of here. Yeah. So the guy that I beat.
Antonio.
Antonio, yeah.
Last year's winner.
Yeah, this shows you the how turbulent Masters is, because the person who won Masters last year came dead last.
Yeah,
in
and
this year's
the thing
Masters.
about it, there's no submarining because you go down and you play someone really good, but also they didn't repeat it too. So if you're like going down and you're 18th, you're still gonna play against someone like 13th
You're always
or like
playing
12th.
It's like-
Because they don't want to repeat them, so you're just like going.
Yeah,
one
it's
after
like
the other.
last year, round 3, I was bottom table. I'm like, that's gonna be an easy game. I'm playing J Fair because he had also lost the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, you don't really have an easy game at the Masters. That's like the whole point. Yeah, you cannot separate.
But it was nice though because we're gonna like for the GT like put a lot of effort into it, and it was good to see what these new legions to me can do, what like the different play styles and like the speed of game at a 650. Because when I lived in the US, we didn't do 650 really. We always did 800 or 750 at the least. So it's interesting.
It's a really different game between like 6 or 7 or 800. Like different armies with completely
It is.
different games.
Well, Evan.
All right. Well, I also showed up to Masters just like Rainier.
I was on his shoulders. He dragged me
Yeah.
You carried
So
us.
I originally
On the shoulders of giants or
on the shoulders.
originally it seemed like when we were signing up for the tournament and everything, it seemed like the last chance qualifiers was going to have like 120, 130 players. And it was going to be just the first place would get the ticket. So I just assumed that I would never qualify whatsoever. So I took a less extreme, less overly competitive army than I did last year. I took Pyramin's Tirith, so it was Boromir, Horse Flag, Madril Damrod, Avenger Bolt Thrower, and then 11-ish Fountain Court, 11-ish Rangers, and then just words and this year to fill it up. So it was still a competitively made army, but it wasn't what I would say is the top tier of lists. But I took it. I was like, this is going to require a lot less thought than Angmar, and played in 4 games in last chance qualifiers, and I was exhausted at the end of it because every game was an absolute nail biter with that list.
that's the sort of list that Rob would play, right, Rob?
Yeah,
It does sound like
exactly. Rob.
you,
Yeah.
you sent
Yeah.
you sent it when I saw it in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
thing.
Yeah, when I saw you
Like
play
an
that
army.
list last time, I was like,
You guys really confused me. I understand what the reference are. Real Rob.
you laid them all confused.
I don't play for him.
Yeah, I now feel very bad for Rob because there were many matchups I got that just seemed completely impossible to do, and I was just like internally screaming every time like some horrible thing popped up. But I somehow managed to get 4 wins in the last chance qualifiers, which got me into the Masters, and then went into the games. So the first one was actually against Victor, who Rainier played. Was it 4th game, 5th game, something like that?
Did you lose to Victor?
I did not.
Oh.
I was the
You
victor
were the
in that
victor.
case. So actually, we technically drew because he was a victor and I was a victor too. So,
But then he was a victor, you were a victor. Who got evicted?
I guess both of us, because neither of us played on the same table this time.
yeah, like what a victory.
I did.
But yeah, it
What are you
was
doing from these
it was
points?
seize the prize. He had a very heavy shooting army in a scenario that doesn't really reward heavy shooting. So I march. He marches as well because he's like, I don't want to leave you to just grab the prize. That's 3 points. The issue was that my army in combat was just better than his.
Yeah, because his leader was Angbar, or what?
Angbor the Fearless.
Angbor the
And he had a bunch
Fearless.
of clansmen of Lamadon and
So he
pikemen of
didn't even
Dalaran
have,
and stuff like that.
Fatty on horseback.
But he went to the middle first and dismounted, picked up the prize, and then I just pushed forward as far as I could go. Next turn, we had a very crucial heroic move roll off, which I won, and then I swamped the 3 cab models he had thrown forward. The rest of his line couldn't get in, so I just had this wall of Fountain Court Guard in between Boromir, who was fighting the guy with the prize. Boromir obviously killed the guy, got the prize, and he did not have any tools to deal with Boromir whatsoever. He got him off his horse with Elfhelm's throwing spear, and then that was it. Because Boromir can just defense against him, strike against him. There's nothing he can do. And in combat, it was just absolutely brutal for him. My defense 7, fight 5 guys with a 6-inch banner fighting against his fight 4, defense 5 guys, and just like I broke him pretty easily, and then I killed Angbor because he's pretty squishy. And then we were basically playing at the end of the game. He was trying to break me. He'd done a lot of damage with his shooting because he kept his Blackwood Vale archers back and his bolt thrower back, and were shooting at me. He was trying to break me, and I was trying to get Boromir off the board to get the 7 points for the prize. He did not end up breaking me, and I did end up getting Boromir off the board, so it ended up being a 12-0. But it was very much a situation where the scenario was very skewed in my favor, and that heroic move off really hurt him. So yeah, that was round 1.
That's how you should have done it when you're.
Take notes.
Yeah.
All you have to have is the
Yeah, just take
scenario
minutes
skewed
to-
in your favor, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Get the right scenario.
Right
against
Right
the
so-
scenario
opponent.
against the right person.
So
Yeah.
Why didn't you just do that?
moving on, because speaking of scenario skewed in my favor, we're never really going to have that appear again in this conversation. Moving on to round 2, I played against Sean Lam in Assassination. And for those of you unaware, I have Damron and a Siege Veteran as 2 of my
What
heroes.
did you do that for?
See, guys, that's how you can avoid this
Yeah,
problem.
don't do it.
Don't have
Thank you.
Damron and Siege Veteran.
It's not like the entire idea behind my competitive list was based on them. But yeah, and it ended up being against Pits of Dol Guldur, which was a brutal matchup in Assassination because I can't stop Azog. There's nothing I can do about it. But he made what I would say was a very critical mistake early on. There was this woods. I was sitting at the back shooting at him, obviously, with my bolt thrower and my bows. He split his army. He put the keeper on one side with his guys. He put Azog and a captain on the other side. And I was targeting the keeper. So I was like, great. He threw his wargs forward super early, charged Boromirian, called a combat, went around, burnt a mite off the keeper, striking. And I basically just sent a large portion of my army over on the keeper side, and they just didn't do the job. They were just losing fights and not killing guys.
Boromir would have done it.
Choose the better son.
But I did win on that flank eventually, but it took so long. And it took a long time to kill the keeper. He got the keeper around in a Madril. I had just a brain fart on that. He called a combat charge. Madril killed him. But the next turn I charged in on the keeper. We both struck up. I won the combat. I roll my dice to wound him. I need 2 wounds on 5s with 8 dice from Boromir. I roll no 5s and 2 4s. I have 2 might points left. I either burn my entire army out of might or I let the keeper live. And I decided to kill the keeper with my last 2 points of might. And then actually, no, I had 1 more might point with the siege veteran. But other than that. Meanwhile, on the left flank, Azog is just killing 4 troops a turn. Like there's nothing I can do. I'm basically just moving troops in to make a wall to stop him as long as possible, because I can't deal with Azog. There's absolutely nothing I can do. So eventually he destroys that flank. We both break, and basically I'm just running the siege veteran for my life, and Damrod, because Madril's already dead. So I'm going, and then we do the end of the game rolls. First one doesn't work out. Azog's going around. He's basically destroyed the entire left flank of my army at this point. I'm doing my best to stop Azog from getting through. Win a move off next turn, which was very crucial. Pass my courage test with my 2 heroes. Azog goes in, kills a couple more guys. Game still doesn't end. Next turn, do it again. I somehow managed to keep my siege veteran safe. Damrod runs away. Azog gets in on Boromir. He either heroic combated it. No, he just straight up heroic combated into him with equal fight. Just won the fight, killed Boromir.
That's when you know Boromir's lost. When you're just heroic combat, like, we don't need to try it.
Yeah.
Right off Boromir.
And I still have hope because he could still be killing the siege veteran. Game doesn't end. And then next turn, I have 2 models left on the board, a ranger and the siege veteran. That turn happens. Azog kills the siege veteran, he kills the ranger, and I'm tabled.
Oh my.
Oh,
And guess what he was targeting? The siege veteran.
Oh.
So every single round except the final one after I'd killed the keeper of the dungeons, I would have won.
so then why did you roll so bad?
Guys, stop
You should have
rolling
rolled
badly.
badly when
Yeah, I
you
know.
roll in the game.
Yeah.
This is
Like,
not hard.
come on.
Roll
Like,
better.
To be fair, he had won priority every single time, and he was rolling above a 2
You know,
every
that's
single
the
time.
exact same thing he did to me.
Mm.
Yeah.
It is actually the exact same thing.
Yeah,
he
I was talking to him
father,
about
like
it.
son,
He was talking about how he was rolling very well with this one specific die that apparently was
yeah.
doing well, but so it ended up being an 8-6 win to him, because he had killed Boromir. That got him the points. So it was a little unfortunate on my end. I think it was like 70% chance I win, 30% chance he wins. But
A little unfortunate, getting a bad scenario against a bad matchup.
it happens.
Well, I think in that situation, you just lost so much money trying to kill the keeper.
Yeah,
Like trying to wipe his board out.
the issue was like the alternative wasn't any better.
Yes, no, I'm not saying you tactically messed up. I'm just saying what should have happened didn't.
Yeah.
Sportman should have wrecked that whole squad, but it didn't happen. So he spent a lot more money than anticipated.
But it was a really fun game despite the unfortunate luck on my part. Sean's a really great guy. And I wasn't too fussed with losing against Masters.
So Sean's taken on 3 of us by now.
Yep.
Oh
Yes,
wow.
he
so
has.
the
And I
Italian
played with his
Sean.
doubles partner.
Yeah.
I feel like
You're a traitor, not
I am. Yeah, no,
You
that's
slept
exactly
with
what
the enemy.
happened. I did. Actually, I slept with the enemy's wife. Okay?
All right. So moving on from that, round 3, I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to be a nicer matchup, right? I'm excited for this, and of course I draw a contest of champions against Angmar with the Witch King on Feldbeast and Gullivar, which is a absolutely atrocious matchup because basically they can just transfix my Boromir every turn. Gullivar can go in and just murder everything, and then the Witch King can get a couple kills and just be safe, and then that's pretty much it. And I had one saving grace in that game, and that was the tent setup. So to describe this tent setup, I think you guys have all seen it because it's like on every 4th board.
The 3 times.
There's 3 woods on the sides. We didn't care about those; they didn't matter. But there were also 3 tents, sort of surrounding the middle of the board. So obviously, contest you deploy right in the middle of the board. So I deployed between 2 of the tents. There's the middle here, 1 tent here, 1 tent here. I deployed in between that. Just put a shield wall down, left a little gap for Boromir. Put him down. He basically just deployed his orcs right against that with the Witch King and Gullivar behind. And I had a serious warband deployment advantage on him because of the bolt thrower. So I just put the bolt thrower back. I put Boromir's warband up front, and then I actually came up with that idea after I deployed Boromir's warband. I'm like, he's deployed his flying monsters back there. I'm gonna make it so that he cannot land anywhere at all behind my lines. So I took my Madril's warband and Damrod's warband and just spread them out in this 12-inch bubble where neither Gullivar nor the Witch King could charge. So round one, I win priority, which is crucial because it means I can dismount Boromir so he can't black dart him off a horse, which would lose me a turn of combats with Boromir. Send Boromir into 2 guys, charge some other guys in there, normal stuff. And then he manages to get the Witch King in on 2 guys without the Boromir's banner being in range. He got a couple specters, and then he got a compel, and then charged in. We both called heroic combats. He killed 2 and then flew on top of a tent, so I couldn't get him. And I killed 2, went into a couple more, and lost the combat with Boromir. So I wasn't able to get a lead on kills early on, so it was going to be quite tough. Gullivar could not get in on the first turn at all, so he flew around to the side of the tent, basically looking at some guys that had gotten out on the edge. Next turn, I heroic move. I win the move off, and then I changed my entire strategy and pushed my entire army into this little gap in between all of the tents and made it so Gullivar could not see a single model at all. So Gullivar couldn't charge. I put my wall of Fountain Court actually behind. I had a wall in front and then a wall of Fountain Court behind my army so that he couldn't specter any guys back for Gullivar to charge. And then I basically forced him to make a decision, which is the Witch King can compel a guy out and charge him with either the Witch King and Gullivar or something else, or he can try and transfix Boromir. And he decided to try and transfix Boromir. Gullivar couldn't get a fight in on turn 2. So yeah, on the first turn he tried to transfix on Boromir. I rolled 2 dice. I resisted it. So I have 1 left. And at that point, I chose not to resist because I didn't feel like my positioning was right, and his Witch King wasn't in a position to do any damage because I had a line of fight 5 behind, because I had made sure now that Boromir's banner affected every single model in my army. So Boromir didn't do anything. Obviously, I have a line of Fountain Court, so I'm doing more damage to his line than he is to mine. And then a similar thing sort of continued on for a couple of turns. I managed to slip a guy through next turn into where Gullivar had moved and pin him in place, and he botched his heroic combat with Gullivar and couldn't move him. And then, so that turn went all right. I decided to resist that turn, managed to resist, got 2 more kills with Boromir. So I was ahead 4-2 at that point. And he's getting pretty desperate. His captain's out of might completely. Gullivar is down to like 1 or 2, Witch King's down to 1, my point. But then the next turn he got his shot, where he flew Gullivar around, he managed to move him, basically spread his guys out, made a little hole for Boromir, transfixed Boromir, because at that point I was out of will, and charged the Witch King into him, heroic struck, rolled a 1 and lost the fight on the strike. Now, mathematically, even if he had won the fight, it wouldn't have been the end of it, because on average, he doesn't kill Boromir with just the Witch King. But after that, he had completely burnt himself out of might.
Right.
And I had a couple left. I think I had like maybe 1 with Madril, 1 with Boromir, something like that. So it was pretty much a win from there. I broke him. Didn't manage to kill the Witch King. Actually, on the last turn, Boromir double won his courage test to charge the Witch King, and he got an extra kill from that. So I didn't double him on kills, but in the end, it was a 5-0, and it was extremely intense.
Yeah, actually, the whole time I thought you were setting up for how you lost.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you won. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, shit.
Yeah, it was a very intense game. He was a very fun guy to play against. He was very frustrated with how I had played all of my guys, because This is one of the Italians. He
Oh,
was
okay.
Riccardo, I believe his name. Yes,
Oh,
Riccardo.
okay.
He was a lovely guy, and I'd make these moves, and he'd be like, "Oh, I can't go anywhere with any of my big flappy things," which is fair. Like when you take those models, you want to do stuff with them.
Yeah.
But you did the right thing. You made it so he couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I made it so he had as little fun as humanly possible.
Yes, exactly.
That's what you do against Angmar, by the way. As an Angmar player, you just make them have so little fun that they give up. He didn't give up, by the way.
But he is a Masters player. Your other opponent.
Yes.
Why don't Angmar players just play Black Riders?
They haven't
Don't give
discovered
them
it.
that.
Well,
idea.
because
Don't
they
give them
haven't
that
sold their soul quite
idea.
yet.
Yeah.
It's like the seventh circle of hell.
Yeah.
They'll get there.
Why don't we all just play Black Riders and we'd all have no fun and therefore everybody would have fun, right?
No, I'm pretty sure that's not.
You know, I honestly think that most players don't instinctively know how powerful they are.
No,
Like you
no.
see 9 riders and you're like, oh,
It's a bit like the flying circus.
yeah.
Like
In fairness
there was like
to
2 or 3 players
Assault
ever
on
that
Helm
you
Street kept them
Yeah.
at bay pretty well.
You what?
Assault on Helm Street kept them at bay pretty well.
Oh, so we nerfed Assault on Helm's Deep and how it came out of the woodwork?
Pretty well. I mean, you think you have like 15 crossbows and like 2 ballistas and a bomb,
All of which can shoot into combat.
all of which can shoot into combat and don't
I
care
think
about
Assault on Lothlorien still does pretty well against them.
Yeah, they
Just
would do
shoot in
good.
combat.
Or Corsairs do okay.
Any evil army. Yeah,
Yes.
usually
Any
that
evil
with mass
army with
shooting.
a lot of shooting.
With
Big
shooting.
mass shooting evil armies should do okay. In theory.
Which is actually similar with Angmar because you can just shoot Gullivar's combat. So
Yeah,
they're
you
actually
can.
similar. Oh, yeah. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I do remember that game really well. I love it. So I played horribly, and like I was the first time I played you that.
I don't think it was the first. No, it wasn't the first time.
It was one of the ones, but I'm like really like, I'll throw the models here, throw the models there. And Matt's very particular, really good at game. So yeah, I misplaced Soladan. He somehow had like 1 wound left. And then he throws Gullivar into him, and I have 4 crossbows, and I'm like, I'm gonna kill Soladan, so he's not gonna heroic combat and like take the thing and do everything. So I throw 4 shots at Soladan's that combat, 3 hit, and I'm like, okay, 1 needs to hit Soladan and kill him. All of them hit Gullivar, and I'm like, shoot. Roll the dice, 5, 5, 6. Boom. Then Gullivar like left, and Matt and I just looked at each other like, oh, what?
To be fair, still I couldn't play her combat anymore.
Soladan?
Gullivar.
Oh,
Gullivar,
Gullivar.
sorry, Gullivar.
Oh, he can't call heroic combat.
Yeah, because he's not in combat anymore.
He's dead.
That's true. That's how tired I am. I'm like, what? I'm that far gone from the game that I'm like,
FAQs,
did they
bro.
FAQ? He can't call
What?
Actually, yeah.
Guys, I'm tired.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Evan, wrap it up.
All right. I have 3 more games, but I'm not going to go into the same detail that I did with the last game, so everybody can go to bed. So game 4 was against Luca from Italy, and he had Assault on Lothlorien. And speaking of bad matchups, we played Reconnoiter. He had 53 models. I had 37. I couldn't really shoot at him. He could shoot me to death. So it was a nightmare matchup of the game. So
Night assault.
yeah. So we played it out. I did my best. I had to spread my army out a bit. Had like a more focused center with Boromir in the middle. And then I was losing a lot of priorities, which I think is the only reason that I even had a chance in that game was losing priorities so I could react to what he was doing. And eventually what ended up happening is I faked him out one way, and then I went around another way, and I engaged him fully, and I just started chopping through goblins. I was rolling pretty well with that. And while he was trying to infiltrate on the right side, he basically gave up on the left side because he didn't have any fast moving models over there. And we got to a point, the last 2 turns of the game were completely dependent on priority rolls. So on the second to last turn, I won priority and pinned a bat swarm, which was in 12 inches of the edge of the board. And there was a spider that wasn't quite in range that he moved in range next turn as well. And I continued killing stuff in the center. And then next turn, I was getting really close to breaking him, so he needed this priority to be able to get his models off the board. And he rolled a 1 and was like, oh my God, no, this is horrible. And then of course I rolled a 1 as well. And I had won priority last turn, so he won priority. I had basically taken my bolt thrower on the left side and run it across the entire board to the right side. So I had 1 might point over there, called a heroic move, but I couldn't pin the bat. I could only pin the spider. And then the bat flew off the board, got him 3 points. I broke him. I was super close to breaking, but he didn't quite manage it. So it ended up being a 3-3 draw.
So it wasn't a bolt throw, it was a board.
Exactly. Only on the Unexpected podcast. So that was a draw. And then round 5, I played against Men of the West, which we have often criticized on this podcast.
And I don't think ever seen before. Have you
I've
ever?
never seen
No.
that. I mean, let alone in a Masters event.
But yeah, he was doing extremely well, obviously, because this was like table.
Well, keep
3
in mind though, it's still test. There's literally no reason to play the Legion. Like you can absolutely just play exactly what the Legion lets you do and get better stuff because you know mounted heroes. So you trade out mounted heroes for frozen.
Well, to counter that point, if he had taken a normal list without Men of the West, that was the same composition, he would have lost in his game against me. Because we were playing capture and control, and I had broken him, but he was on all the objectives, and his fearless, being able to auto pass all cursed chests when he was broken, saved the game for him. And I was 1 turn off of grabbing all of the objectives, and the game ended. So it was a really good game.
So you lost against Men of the West.
I did.
Disowned.
I know.
Dishonest.
The Unexpected podcast
honestly,
does not endorse this.
It was good. It
That was
was
quite
good and
unexpected.
bad.
It is unexpected.
It was
Actually,
a good
yeah,
bad
you're right.
matchup. Because I can't do anything to Aragorn. I can't kill Aragorn in any way because the only hitter I have is Boromir, and he lives on 6s.
And also Boromir is dead in the story by the time this
That was a huge
forms.
problem. Yes.
So they had to just
And
fix that narrative
as a
problem.
consequence of being dead in the story, Boromir killed a grand total of like 2 models. In the
Yeah,
game
that makes
because
sense.
the entire army was defense 7. It was just spam Minas Tirith warriors. with
Really, I've been
shields.
there.
And then Aragorn was killing 4 guys a turn. So basically I had to rely entirely on my bolt thrower. I had like 5 or 6 sets of turns because I set up where my entire army was on one side and the bolt thrower had just this gap down the middle to shoot through. And I think I rolled like 4 or 5 1s on my random D6 shots. And the bolt thrower very much underperformed in that game.
Well, there you go. That's how you win with Men of the West. You just need your opponent to underperform with your bolt thrower.
Perfect, yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
But yeah, he was a really good player despite his list being very, very wacky. And on the last turn he could have won, he did. So good for him.
You know, to be fair though, Kalman, who the guy with the champions list, he beat you. He
Jack to Rainier.
Whoa!
just in case.
Yeah, in case anyone forgot on the podcast. Though he also mentioned that Men of the West list, and then he lost against it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that Men of the West list was actually.
Because he said it was really hard to get through their armor.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what does that mean? So Men of the West are better than the champions of Freiburg or better than Rainier?
I think everything's better than me, to be honest.
Rainier hasn't played in 3 years. Yeah,
Someone's gonna have Reconnoiter with Ents, and they'll beat me.
I had Goblin Town, did Ents, and I lost.
What did you lose? I said the Goblin King and the Treebeard.
Yeah, I kept
Well,
charging.
I only think we're probably surviving. It's true.
That is actually true. Not with my dice rolls. We'll see. But tomorrow's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Wait, there's one more game. That's if I may have won or lost.
Oh
sorry,
yes, yes. Oh,
I'm so
Rainier.
traumatized. I'm like, make it end, guys. I can't even look at a dice.
Yeah,
for like
so
5 years.
I played against another person Rainier played against, which was Pascal.
You're like, should I mention that he lost?
Yeah, so-
I saw that little pause in your voice, and you were like, that Rainier played against.
So I may or may not have won against the two people that Rainier lost against, but moving on.
Yeah,
Um,
Evan is the better.
Well, I
Did you
certainly
avenge-
roll
did you
better
avenge
than
me
you.
against Pascal.
I did. Yes.
Thank you.
It was hold ground, and it was probably the simplest game I played all weekend.
Oh yeah,
he- He
did.
deployed his entire army on one side of the
I
board.
don't think played Rainier.
Mm.
That would have been the
Yeah.
simplest game.
Yeah, that would have been the guess fate. Me beat against 8 models at hold ground. That was my best scenario. My best scenario, and I lost. I was ending. I was like, let's just go, guys.
How could this possibly fail?
Out of interest, you literally
Like,
you stay out of combat until 30 minutes, and then you run your entire army into the
yeah,
center.
but we were both like the bottom table, and it was so much fun. And like, it was one of those things where it's like, let's just have fun with it. Let's not nitpick. Let's have fun. But yeah, I was the toast, and my models were the butter, and he just scraped it all over. Yeah, but how did your game?
But yeah, it was very simple in the way we played because we both rolled well for Maelstrom. So he deployed on one side of the board, I deployed on the other side of the board, and we just ran at the center. He got there slightly before me, but I just started chopping through his guys because he had Lake Towners. I had.
He played Survivors or Army?
He played Survivors with Tariel and some elves.
Did you like that alliance or no?
Not against Defense 7 Fountain
How
Court
many
Guard.
models did he have?
He had like 44.
I wonder why Tariel looked like us.
Killing.
Yeah,
Suicider?
killing. Which so
Some would disagree.
unfortunately the matchup was not great for him because I had so much Defense 7.
Yeah.
His Tariel and his Bard couldn't get their heroic combats off. And Tariel couldn't kill anything. And
Yeah,
my
she didn't
guys.
kill much in my game too. Oh no, she did actually.
Okay.
She killed your spirit.
No, this
Okay.
event killed my spirit.
But yeah, I ended up breaking him and having more models in the center, so it was 6-0.
Nice.
So all in all, it was a very fun tournament, a lot of fun games. I came 5th overall.
Well, 4-2 is pretty decent. Such a game.
I
Fifth
wasn't
is
4-2.
good,
It
yeah.
was 3 wins, 1 draw, 2.
Oh,
What
yeah,
were
sorry.
the top
Yeah.
3?
So the top 3, I
Two
believe
assaults.
Jay Clare came 3rd. He was 4-2.
Mhm.
He had
The
Lorient.
the assault player I played against and drew against in the 4th round came 2nd, and then Kylie, who also had assault, came 1st.
Fascinating. Both of them won contest.
They
Presumably.
didn't.
Oh, neither. of
They
them
didn't. Kylie.
Kylie
did.
won.
Kylie did.
Kylie won against Pitts and Door too.
Yeah.
Yeah. She actually
I'm guessing as our guy turned water.
He didn't.
no, he did not.
As our-
She actually has struggled to hold him down.
Yeah.
She actually did.
Wow, did she win?
She explained it at breakfast. It was like she was transfixing him for a number of turns, but like eventually she just kind of ran out of steam with it. And I forgot what happened. She'll have to explain it, unfortunately.
Oh,
It was
okay.
transfixing, shooting into combat, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, shooting in combat to wipe his combats out. Yeah, yeah. She did
Yeah.
the trackers. She said save her life. Like
Oh, because he died so
no, well they
Well,
fired
she
into
could
the
kill-
combat.
Oh, the
yeah,
trackers
and
themselves
they
did, okay.
yeah. She just put a lot of trackers because she had the orc requirement.
Oh yeah, so then you're actually getting +1 to kill your own orcs.
You are getting +1 to kill her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, so actually this nerf made the army stronger.
In
Yeah,
some
she
ways,
actually
yes.
believes it did. She believed the nerf made the
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, but the other guy did lose against Easterlands. It was like 2-0 or something like
Okay.
that. But then he drew and won the rest.
And Jerry, I believe, something like exactly the same list he had last year.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he actually said that he
Yeah.
was gonna submit a list, but then he saw in the Tourney app
That you
that
can
there was an
just-
option to pick your old list, and he was like, "Oh, cool, play." So he just picked that.
This will save me 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why he's close.
So for reference for this tournament, first place was on 6 wins, but next one down was 4 wins, a draw, and a loss, and then there was 4 wins and 2 losses. So it shows you how everyone was basically around the middle because everyone was beating and losing to everyone except for Kylie.
And me, I was just losing.
You were like Kylie the opposite.
Yeah, I was the opposite guy.
Dang it, Kylie.
Not entirely, because you didn't manage to finish last. They got this one.
Yeah, that's right. You are not negative, Kylie.
So I failed at fail.
You failed.
I double failed.
You couldn't even be.
You suck at sucking.
You couldn't even be last.
All right. Well, so this won't conclude our Ardacon rounds. We're actually going to be doing another episode, so watch out for that, where we're going to be talking about our GT rounds and how we did during those and our experiences at Ardacon. So, with all that being said, we will all talk to you very soon.
And don't play wraiths.